Coming up on today's episode of Parasport Nation, Swimming Canada recently announced Jocelyn Jay is the new Associate Director of High Performance for the Paralympic Program. She joins the show, so we dive into her new role with her. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome in. I'm Alex Smyth, the host of PSN, as always joined by co-host Nathan Clement. Nathan, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, Alex. It's been a very emotional week and a celebratory week in a way for me too. And for today's episode, I'm wearing a BC Children's Hospital shirt, a black shirt with a large white font saying "Small is Mighty." As for myself, I was a stroke survivor on July 6, 1997, and that date just passed a few days before this episode airs. And for me, it's a celebratory day, as I mentioned earlier, of celebrating what I've been through as a stroke survivor. So it's been really nice reminiscing about the work, the sacrifice a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of selfless strangers in the communities of Vancouver, BC, and Canada have had to give me that support and guidance. So it's been really nice just to acknowledge and celebrate a lot of people who have supported me from one of the toughest days of my family's life to where we are today.
No, that's fantastic that you're able to kind of celebrate that day, because not for everyone, they wouldn't view it or be able to celebrate it in a different way. They have their own views on it. For me, I don't really have that day. I guess it could be the day I truly got diagnosed, which would have been, strangely enough, right around this time. I think it was like July 2nd, 2011, I believe. So, I mean, it's also around this time too, but I always knew I had that disability. I always knew I had hearing loss. I had vision loss. It's just how it actually presented itself. But for you, for actually having an acquired disability, I'm sure this is all those emotions continue to flow through any time that this kind of comes through every year. I'm sure there's that anniversary, there's those little moments, but also that celebration, and that's great to hear that you're able to do that, Nathan.
I've been very fortunate. I've had, and for everyone, it's very different. And for me, it's been a real long journey of acceptance, long journey of understanding where we started to where we are now. Often when I was a kid, this was not a fun day for my mom, my dad, and everyone around me. But now as we've gotten older, really realize that this day can create so many opportunities for other people too, especially kids who suffer pediatric strokes, like what I went through. As it's rare, but it does happen. And anytime that you can bring awareness to something like this, hopefully raise funds for great causes or great places like BC Children's Hospital or many other locations that are helping kids and youth go through their own journeys, their own battles, it makes a difference at the end of the day. And if me talking about it, me highlighting a day that my life changed, at least for me, for the better, is something that I'm willing to do every single year it comes around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always worth talking about it, because you never know how you're going to help someone else in need, in the moment, in the community. But let's change over a bit now to talk about a different type of celebration, because sticking in your neck of the woods, it's all about the Hall of Fame, baby, because the BC Curling Hall of Fame has announced its inaugural class. There are some big names in this list, including Sonja Gaudet, Jim Armstrong, Forrest, friend of the show, and Daryl Neighbour, all members from that 2010 Paralympic Championship gold medal wheelchair curling team. That said, they're not alone, Nathan, because in total, there are 77 members inducted into this inaugural class. First off, your reaction to a BC Curling Hall of Fame, and then the sheer volume of entrants in this inaugural year.
It's amazing that we're getting para and Paralympic representation like this and really highlighting and celebrating that 2010 team. I still remember watching some of their matches as a kid, as a celebration, and any time that you can have a place that honors these athletes on the Olympic side, on the builder side, on just the community side and the Paralympic side is huge. 77 is a lot, but you have to start somewhere with it. You have to be in a place, and hopefully with all 77 inductees. There's a place, there's a time where they can really be honored, celebrated, and given that moment in the spotlight. They deserve so much for what they've done for their communities, what they've done for the sport, and what they've done for their province. So it's one of those things where it's a lot at the start, but hopefully they're given that time and place to really be celebrated.
So this is my problem. I see both sides. 77 is just a ridiculous number to bring into a Hall of Fame. How many people are left in BC curling? Because it's already a bit of a niche kind of field that you're celebrating. 77 seems like a huge field. I get it. You want to honor people throughout the past because this is the first year that you're doing it. But it's like, you can build up to these things. You see a lot of these Hall of Fames, so it's like you're celebrating people both past and present. There would have been a way to do it, but I also get it from wanting to attract people. You don't want to go into a Hall of Fame that has just 5 names, they've just started. You want there to be a good number of inductees of information of the people that really represent what the sport was in the province throughout the years. But man, 77 is too high. I think maybe you start in the high teens and low 20s, maybe 30 for that first class. But how would you like to have the Hall of Fame start? Would you have gone with the 77 or would you have gone with a smaller number and worked up to it?
I think I would have started with a smaller number, but I like your idea of the high teen 30s because there is a lot of athletes in that 77 who should be first ballot Hall of Famers. And that's where it becomes difficult is who do you take off? Who do you put on? Often there's always debates, no matter what sport it is, of who's getting into the Hall. Are they a first ballot Hall of Famer? Are they a second ballot? Should they even be in the Hall at all? But you need that starting number, maybe even if it's a little bit smaller at that 30, and then you progressively get lower and lower and lower in the years to come, whether it takes 5 to 10 years to get to actually your ideal size that you want for a Hall of Fame. But it's 2025 and we have a BC Curling Hall of Fame now. That's huge. That's massive. And just these steps forward of just making sure that you can induct and celebrate everyone in the future is going to be massive. But that Hall of Fame party, you got 77 people there. That's going to be one heck of a time.
Yeah, the logistics alone on the induction ceremony, that's going to be one long day and evening. You're going to need all the time you can get. But maybe in the years going forward, they'll probably shrink that induction and that group down to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 if they want, and then they can slowly continue to expand throughout time. But with that, Nathan, let's turn things over to our main interview. Nathan, Jocelyn Jay, she is joining Swimming Canada's in a new role as the Associate Director of High Performance for the Paralympic Program. She is going to have a major impact on Paralympic swimming in Canada going forward. Let's welcome her in now. This is our interview with Jocelyn Jay. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, I want to say congratulations on the new role. How does it feel to be named the Associate Director of High Performance for the Paralympic Program with Swimming Canada?
It's exciting. It's exciting and a little overwhelming. It's a very big program with a lot of expectations, but I'm excited to work directly with the Paralympic program and the community across the country.
Aside from your own personal career as a swimmer, you served as a team leader of the para program at the 2019 Lima Parapan Am Games. What was that experience like, and was there any lessons that you took away from those games?
That was a great opportunity. Excited to work with Darda Sales with that. I learned a tremendous amount from Darda Sales. I think what I took away from that is just the needs of the athletes are so very different than the Olympic program, and even the experiences that I have. Obviously, when I was on the national team way back in the day, it's interesting how much the sport has changed, right? Working with the full needs of the athletes. And I think the biggest takeaway was the athletes in their scheduling, what they were doing from, this is when I need to get up and head to the call room and then working backwards. I think for me, that was the biggest takeaway from that. And then just keeping everybody positive and excited to be there and competing for Canada.
No, that's fantastic. And that's something that we always talk about on this program is obviously there's that evolution in sport and in parasport as well, where it's the total athlete. It's not just, okay, what are they doing when they're performing on the biggest stages, but it's also, taking into account things like mental health and mental preparation, making sure that the athletes are fully prepared and ready for every single moment. You mentioned there are some unique challenges. Like, can you talk a bit about like some of the biggest objectives you have early on, or one of the first few things you want to try to address in this?
I think at the end of the day, the ultimate goal from our strategic plan is to achieve swimming excellence. And for us in our strategic plan with the Paralympic program, it's a top 9 medal nation at the Paralympic Games. So I think it's putting the athletes first, making sure that they're taking care of themselves, they're getting what they need, and ultimately performances will follow. I think pretty high level, that's what I'm working with, having not started until September.
Right now, we just had swimming trials in Victoria a few months back. What are the priorities of the team, as you said, starting this quadrennial going for LA in 2028?
Again, I have just, I haven't even started this role until September. So I think right now it's going to be working on the transition plan with JP Lavoie, who's currently in the program. I think probably evaluating how the World Championships go in September will ultimately be what it looks like kind of for our month together after the World Championships, and then developing on the plan that we already have in place with Own the Podium and the high performance plan, and tweaking that, working towards 2027 World Championships where slot allocation will be key priorities. So doing what we need to develop our athletes and our coaches to get ready for that, and then leading into 2028 in LA.
And for yourself, are there certain things when you look back on your career as an athlete and you hope that, okay, you're having that insight and bringing it into the umbrella of like overseeing the full program, are there like kind of the aspects that's like, okay, I know what an athlete is going through in these high pressure times, or like as they're preparing for a major competition, that is like, I can bring that wealth of experience to this role to really help support them overall?
Yeah, I think as an athlete, I have a pretty good idea what the pressure looks like swimming at international events. It's a lot, and I think it's making sure that they're taking care of themselves and doing what they need to perform on the day at the time. I also have 20 years of coaching experience behind me as well, so I have a pretty good idea that a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer. And so what do we need to do to make sure that they're happy, they're feeling confident, they feel well prepared to get up on the block and race for Canada?
One of my great honors of my sporting career was actually being a part of the Paralympic program and being on the Rio 2016 swim team, and just the experience of swimming for Canada is one of the biggest honors. And you've had that privilege and honor of representing and swimming on Canada's national team. Do you have any favorite memories that stand out from your time on the team?
I think probably my biggest memory, we were in Edmonton at PAMPAX, and I was fortunate enough to literally run into John Candy. So it really has nothing to do with swimming. He was staying at our hotel because he owned one of the professional teams in town. But I think just being with a team, everyone's got similar goals. Everyone understands and has the same sacrifices, leading up to that national or international event. So I think it's just having that common goal, having everyone work together, have that culture that supports our athletes predominantly and supported by our coaches and our support staff. I think at the end of the day, that for me, makes you feel comfortable in your skin, up on the block, ready to go. For
yourself, in going into this position, what does success in this new role look like for you?
I think, again, I would go back to the strategic plan, right? I think it's swimming excellence. So I think it's defining that with the athletes and the coaches, the support staff. I think For me, I would really like to look at a development program. What does that look like, right? Back when I was in the coordinator role within the Paralympic program, I worked with Michelle Berube very closely in the development programs. I worked with Janet Dunn when we were working with the S1 to S5, right? The high support needs sport classes. And I think I'd really like to see more of that because I think that's a little bit of a gap where I would love to see some improvement there, right? So kind of the development program, kind of who can we get in there to support the development program, support succession planning with Janet Dunn, who's been a tremendous pillar in this program. Nathan, I'm sure she was a big part of your swimming career as well, right? Kind of looking at developing and, succession planning for the future, because it's, to your point, it's not just about 2028, it's about 2032 and beyond. And we're starting to talk about new and different generations and new and different needs. So I think it's just kind of growing with the program.
Janet Dunn is a one-of-one person, so kind, so giving with her time, and I've been very fortunate to have had so many memories and moments with her, whether it's her getting me on the observation table for the first time as a swimmer just looking to get into parasport or paraswimming, or and then even going to different competitions, different races with her where we're having one-on-one conversations leading into a classification or just talking about life. And she's definitely one of one. And she's really pioneered and led the way for classification, but also that grassroots, as you've talked about. And you mentioned 2028, but going beyond that in 2032 and the future, where do you see paraswimming going in the years to come?
It's a really good question, Nathan. I don't think I have an answer right now. I want to get into the program and see what it looks like on the ground because I don't have that knowledge. It's really easy for me to say sitting in here, not even in the role, but I think I would love to come back and talk with you once I've been in the role a few months, because I think I would be able to give you a better answer.
Yeah, and that's completely fair, Jocelyn. We know this is a new role for you. We're excited for you. We want to find out all the information. I'm wondering if you could maybe touch on this a bit, because this is something that I think of, especially when you start looking at an overarching kind of view of trying to push the program in the movement forward. It's trying to create a balancing act, because obviously you have some of the top stars on the team. You want to make sure they have opportunity to go and compete at different competitions around the world, but you also want to make sure there are still resources available for up-and-comers, maybe someone trying to crack that lineup, probably make a national team for the first time. How important is it to make sure there's the balance between the stars getting the opportunities to go and compete and keep at the top of their game, but also allowing for younger athletes or newer athletes try to make their mark on the national stage?
I guess I can speak, and I'm saying this in full respect of the coaches, the leadership that are in place now. Again, would need to get on the ground and just see what it looks like. Again, went through the interview process, and I can say what I would love it to look like, but I think I would love to be on the ground and have the conversations, to your point, with the athletes that are after World Championships, since that's when this position ultimately starts. Would love to talk to the athletes that are looking to continue on through 2028, or at least into the next year. Orly, would love to talk to Orly. I watch her compete. She's been an amazing pillar in the program for so many Paralympic Games. What is the success? She's finishing up law school. That's pretty big. What does life be in swimming with school look like? What's next? Kind of having those conversations with the athletes. Also, too, what is the leadership that those athletes can bring to our new athletes, right? Because we have a lot of newer athletes that will be attending Singapore at the World Championships. So what does that look like? What is the leadership that the more experienced athletes can bring? I think just being on the ground and seeing that, observing that, I look forward to that, to kind of get a little bit more to formulate my answer for that, because I don't think I have an answer for you either. A few more months.
I want to go back to your swimming career. You mentioned Edmonton for Pan Pacs, but did you have any other favorite venues or places that you got to race or compete in throughout your career?
You know what? I swam in Sweden. It was quite a competition. It was part of the World Cup series. I think at the time there was the 50-meter pool down. It seemed in the basement, but it was a huge facility, and it was the neatest facility. The way they hosted that meet, I've never seen it. And we're trying to do this at TPASC, where the lights go black and there's a spotlight. They finally have those LED lights at TPASC, so looking to use those for future events. But I think, right, Eye of the Tiger blared so loudly as we were marching out, right? It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. We broke a Canadian record for one of the relays just because of the excitement and the goosebumps and, right, just the power and the privilege of competing for Canada. I think for me, that's a huge memory.
Well, so I guess we can expect a lot more Eye of the Tiger and bright spotlights ahead, because it seemed to serve you well. Hopefully it can serve our Team Canada athletes as well. Jocelyn, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to meet you both.
That was our conversation with Jocelyn Jay from Swimming Canada, the new Associate Director of High Performance for the Paralympic Program. Nathan, as a former Paralympic swimmer, what are your initial thoughts?
I love her attention to detail and the thought and care, although she hasn't taken over this role really till September, and even then there's a little bit of a transition period there. But just having someone with her knowledge, her background, and even like reaching out to people like Mike Eady and Janet Dunn. Janet Dunn is, who I mentioned in the interview, is one of the pinnacle leaders of Paralympic sport in Canada, really what she's done in the way of classification and sport as a whole. She's a member, she's an Order of Canada member from just all the work that she's done. So Jocelyn's going to these people to get their experience, get their perspectives. And I really think Swimming Canada is in great hands with her. And it's going to be really amazing to see what's going to be done. And hopefully Eye of the Tiger is going to be Swimming Canada's new rallying song.
Yeah, I love that. We always talk about, what's the environment like in the pool? Is it going to be a raucous crowd? Like, are you going to be focused? Are you paying attention to that? Oh, no, she was clearly paying attention to Eye of the Tiger. You get the spotlight on. I love that element, but absolutely. She is someone who I think is also going to carve her own path forward. She is being very careful not to step on the toes of her predecessor who's still in the role. But knowing that, okay, this is going to be a lot of work. This is going to be a new challenge to take on, because, there's a lot of factors that really have to be considered when you're talking about the Paralympic program, opposed to, her past experience as being on the Olympic national team as a swimmer. There's all these factors, and she's talked about this. Like, there are other elements that the Paralympic program have to deal with. So hearing her already being aware of that, already addressing that, that's huge. I'm excited. I think there's going to be a new energy in the swimming side of things. So I'm really curious when we do catch up with her down the road, how she's kind of adjusted to that role. Maybe there's some new challenges that have come up for her. But yeah, definitely knowing that she's going to lean on the experience of predecessors and finding the people who are true leaders in the movement, that can only help the program, right, Nathan?
Oh, it can for sure. And as we've both said, it's like when you have someone with that kind of care and respect and want to really carve her own path but make a difference, that's where you want to be as a program. That's where you want to be as a national sport organization. And for her to get into that role, I think you're going to see massive dividends. And even in that question you asked, talking about the mentorship of young up and coming athletes, and also the stalwarts of the program, the veterans, the leaders, and just how she's wanting to engage with these athletes, no matter who they are, what they've accomplished. It's really incredible to see. And Swimming Canada is going to be in a great location and a great position. I cannot wait to catch up with her in the future.
Yeah. Now, Eye of the Tiger is a pretty great walkout song to get pumped up for a race in the pool, Nathan. Can you top that? Would you have done any different, or is Eye of the Tiger going for the win?
Well, my swimming go-to song, and I know our audio engineer, Mark, is going to like this one, was For Whom the Bell Tolls. That was my go-to by Metallica. That was my go-to song as a swimmer. So it's nowhere close to Metallica, but it's still pretty good, and it gets you rocking, it gets you going.
Yeah, the one thing with For Whom the Bell Tolls, you have to get it starting at the right moment, right? Like, you only have probably like 30 seconds worth of song that you go. Eye of the Tiger comes out of the gate hot, but if you got the right time codes in there, you got them locked in, then it's the perfect one to get you pumped up. But, you know, speaking of time codes, ours are hitting double zeros because we are out of time for today's program. For Nathan, I'm Alex. Thank you for watching and listening. Be sure to check us out on YouTube at Parasport Nation or on Instagram, Parasport Nation AMI. You can also find us on the podcast, AMI Audio or AMIplus.ca. So many options. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.